LA Sparks roast Indiana Fever with perfect Sophie Cunningham reference. When the WNBA announced its upcoming expansion to Philadelphia, Detroit, and Cleveland, most people around the league were excited by the news. But not everyone was on board. One of the league's most outspoken voices, Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham, made headlines when she questioned two of the new markets. "I do think that Miami would have been a great one," Cunningham said. "Everyone loves Florida. Nashville is an amazing city. Kansas City, amazing opportunity. But man, I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cleveland." Cunningham and the Indiana Fever were in action Saturday against the Los Angeles Sparks. After pulling off an 89-87 win, the Sparks wasted no time roasting Cunningham with a perfect jab on social media. List of cities Indiana has beef with: Detroit, Cleveland, Los Angeles. After this, fans going crazy. Let's read some comments. Someone said, "Idiotic. When you get to .500, then tweet." Others said, "Congrats on beating us. Without our best player BTW." Someone mentioned the stats with funny way. Said, "List of cities Los Angeles has beef with." Others said, "Fair guess you gotta brag about something when you're 6-13. And here, someone said, "That's an unnecessary post. You man, that's unnecessary post. Fever just missed one shot, and Spark win. You can watch whole game, then see this tweet. This is unnecessary post." Someone said, "Admin please," with crying emoji. Now here, look at this, what Andy said. "Attack Sophie Cunningham all you want. Have your fun. You won that game because the Fever were stupid and pulled her in crunch time." Someone said, "No beef with a team that's 6-13 faced with tears of joy." Man, this unnecessary post and peoples and tweeted a lot of nonsense. Let's move on today game. That marked the second win for the Sparks at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in just over a week. Their previous victory came on June 26th when they beat Indiana 85-75. The Fever were once again without Caitlin Clark, who missed her fifth straight game due to a groin injury. In her absence, Aaliyah Boston stepped up with 23 points and 12 rebounds to lead Indiana. For the Sparks, Azura Stevens posted 21 points and 12 rebounds, while veteran guard Kelsey Plum added 20 points in the win. As for Cunningham, she played 22 minutes and scored 4 points. The Fever returned to action Wednesday when they host the Golden State Valkyries. The Sparks are back home Thursday against the Minnesota Lynx.
So I'll start with you. You guys, around the losses to them came around a 3-game win streak that you guys felt pretty good about how you played, but those 2 losses kind of show some inconsistencies for you guys. How do you guys get more consistent as a team? Is that something you can practice? How does that come?
I think it's just like gradually it's gonna happen over time. Like we've seen throughout the course of our season, there have been peaks and valleys, but you try to lessen how many valleys there are, and we're trying to get to a point where we're having more peaks. But I think the last 2 games part of this are more indicative of who we're becoming and the direction that we're going in. But it's not going to be perfect all the time. But in games like this, we just have to have a different level of focus from the start, especially when we know that a team has already won on our home court. It's like you got to lock in, whether it's fatigue, you're tired, not as focused. Like we just got to check ourselves and one another and make sure that we're really honed in on what we're supposed to be doing so that we can start putting full 40s together.
Natasha, a couple of these close losses the last few weeks. Have you noticed any themes late in these games that is something you guys need to correct to get over the hump in these clutch time ones?
Absolutely. Keeping them off the free throw line. And just taking care of the ball at the end of the stretch. That's the main thing that we've been talking about over and over again.
Natasha, at the end of the game, you had chances. Does it feel like this one got away a little bit? You still could have survived this and pulled it off and felt a little better about the night?
I wouldn't say it got away from us. We had opportunities to win this game, but at the end of the day, we just got to stay consistent That's the main thing. Stay consistent and just do the things that we've been doing in the past couple games that we won, and limited our fouls.
Yes, for either of you, the past 2 games you held, the Lynx and the Aces under 60 points, and then today obviously it was 89. Just what was different defensively, or what did the Sparks do well?
We fouled too much, for one. We got to be better with personnel defense so that when a play breaks down and players start to go one-on-one, it doesn't matter what people's records are at that point. Like, there are scores on all teams in this league, and we gotta understand like what they want to do, what's their go-to, and don't let them do that. Make them do something different. Our rotations and our reds, like our trap-in, wasn't great, and yeah, we were a step slow, I think, on a lot of stuff, and not as physical as we were those other 2 games you mentioned.
Tasha, in that fourth, they shot it well going into that fourth quarter, but in the fourth, all but one of their field goals was inside the paint. What would you have liked to maybe see to correct that and kind of keep them out and having more difficult shots?
Like Sid said, being more physical. We let them do whatever they wanted to do on the offensive end, and instead of us dictating where we want them to be at, and they took full advantage of it, and they scored. Well, they outscored us in the paint this game. So our main focus for the next game is to make sure we're being physical and just keeping that for 40 minutes through the whole game.
These 2 losses surrounding that 3-game win streak you guys had, 2 of those against 2 of the better record teams in the league. What does it take to get a team to be more consistent, especially from you on the coaching side of things?
Yeah, I think a couple things. There's always got to be a high attention to knowing personnel. Oftentimes you don't get a lot of practice time, and so going over a lot of their sets, what you do. But at the end of the day, making sure we know our personnel, who we're going to run off the 3-point line, what we're willing to give up. We've got to make sure that there's a high attention to detail there. I think the other piece is, making sure, again, that we continue to encourage our team to be disruptive. I felt like LA moved the ball too easily. And I don't mean disruptive like physicality. I just mean not allowing them to just move the ball wherever they wanted it to. Our ball pressure made it difficult. I thought they did a great job of exploiting matchups. Really working, especially with Stevens and Jackson when they had smaller players on them. Making sure that their passes were on time, on target, recognizing it early. And we did not do a good enough job of getting them out of there as quickly as we'd like to. But also offensively, their length affected us. Our decision making wasn't great. We over penetrated at times. We had some reads that were there that we didn't see, and that's an area we just got to continue to grow.
Well, Sydney and Natasha said you guys fouled too much.
Yep.
We didn't see that. When you see that happening a lot, is it a defensive breakdown, so you're late and you foul? What do you feel like thematically led to that happening too often today?
Yeah, today. It's been like all season. I feel a couple things. One, sometimes we're late at the point. We're not moving when the ball moves or moving when our player moves, and so that unnecessarily puts us in rotation. Sometimes we get a little too we get a little too, I don't know, anxious, so to speak. Like if somebody's attacking us, instead of making them hit tough shots over the top of us and living with that, because they're the best players in the world, right? They're going to hit really good shots. We try to finish that play with whether it's a block or whether it's sliding in at the last moment or whatever else. And sometimes we just have to live with knowing that great players are going to make really good plays, and don't bail them out by fouling. Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll miss. But there's a lot of things that go into that. At the end of the day, we got to be more disciplined. I didn't feel like we guarded our yard very well. I felt like we had times where we got them going the direction that we wanted to, and we bailed them out by fouling. But they did a good job of continuing to just put their head down and attack us and force us into those fouls.
Yeah, Sid talked about needing to lock in despite fatigue or tiredness, and I know it's been 9 games, I believe 18 days. Just how have you seen your players work through that stretch?
Yeah, this is a group that's pretty locked in, in terms of their energy, their effort. understanding what we're trying to do. But it takes another gear sometimes. If there's a day where you feel like maybe you're a step slow, our anticipation has to be better. Our activity has to be better. If there's better ball pressure, it gives us an opportunity to make up that step, right? If our activity level is a little bit better and we're anticipating when the ball moves and what action they're going to get into, it gives us a little bit of margin for error for that step that we might be slow. So we have to combat, if there's some physical tiredness, we have to combat that with mental sharpness. And that's a skill that you have to practice, right? That's a skill that we have to practice. We have to exercise it. We've got to continue to get better and grow in it.
In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws. So, I think they just put their head down and started to attack us. They did a really good job of recognizing, when our guards, our small guards got switched on to whether it's Jackson or Stevens. They also did a good job of executing some of their schemes. I thought some of those screener actions that they ran, we went over for the last 2 days, and so we weren't very disciplined in that. But I felt like they let the game come to them in those moments, and we, on the other hand, really felt pressed in those moments and forced some shots or quick shots and didn't really make them work as much as we could on the defensive end. Yeah, we got to protect our paint.
Despite all that, you had to look, I think it was airy on that left arc. Was that kind of what you were looking for? Were you good with that shot late?
In which one? Which, on the last time
like
out?
The last 30 seconds.
The last 30 seconds? Yeah, I think get all in the three?
Yeah.
That was a good look for us. It was a good look for us. We had a look we missed, I think, on Kelsey on a back door on one of our other timeouts. We had a great look with AB in the slip on one of them as well. Even at the end of the game, I know it's tough because Azrae Stevens is on the ball and it makes it really tough. I thought Soph was open over the top. But sometimes when teams play with that physicality and use that length, it causes you to rush a little bit, whether it's rushing a shot, rushing a read. It closes the gap, narrows the gap a little bit more.
In that last minute, last seconds, what's going through your mind when you get chances? I mean, you did get the ball back. It wasn't like they could monopolize it. You had a few shots, 3 times really, I think, to get a shot at it. You would think this one's got to go, this one should work, anything like that.
No, just really thinking about execution and what positions we want to put our players in when we're using the timeout. And then while the shot's going up, it's looking to see if it's the high quality shot, if it's a shot that we want to get. Look, there are going to be days where you make shots and miss shots. That's part of it. That's why I thought, AB had a really good look at the end. And so sometimes it just doesn't fall your way. So we're looking more about execution. I didn't feel like our execution was all that good at the end. I felt like in our reset timeout, it wasn't very good either. And, that's on us continuing to make sure that we are going over that, as often as possible when we have our practice time and making sure that we're sharp in those areas.